The town square had never been kind to a man with more conviction than coin, but that morning it turned cruel.
You've lost your mind, Thomas Greer, living inside a hollow tree like some kind of squirrel.
Laughter rippled through the gathered townsfolk, sharp as the wind.
This tree will outlast your sawmill, George. A dead giant still standing has more strength than fresh-cut lumber.
Strength. It's hollow. You'd be a fool's joke by first snowfall.
They laugh because they only see rot and ruin. But I see walls already standing, waiting to be shaped.
The laughter chased him as he turned away, but Thomas's shoulders never slumped. He walked alone into the dense evergreen forest, his boots carving a solitary path through the fresh snow.
Out there, somewhere, stands a tree that will prove every single one of them wrong.
And the forest swallowed him whole, leaving only the question, was he a madman or a prophet? 3 miles into the old growth, Thomas stopped. Before him rose a tree, so vast the sky seemed to lean away.
It's still alive in its own way, standing dead for decades, but the heart has opened a room.
He stepped inside the natural hollow, a cathedral of wood, silent and waiting.
No rot. The sap has petrified the core. It's like living bone.
The sound of boots on snow pulled him out. William Carver stood at the entrance, spectacles fogged, a notebook clutched like a lifeline.
Thomas, the whole town is calling this a madman's folly, but I had to see it for myself.
Then help me prove them wrong, William. This tree will keep a man warmer than any sawn boards ever could.
He lifted his axe and carved the first true cut for a doorway. The wood didn't splinter, it sang.
Even the squirrel thinks you are overdoing it.
Let them laugh. By winter, this hollow will prove its worth. I just have to seal every single crack.
Over the next days, Thomas sealed every fissure with hot pine pitch and packed mud, erasing the outside world. When William returned, the hollow had become a chamber, a bedroll, shelves, and walls that seemed to breathe.
You've carved a wooden womb, but will it hold out the cold when winter truly bites?
Living wood doesn't stop cold, it delays it. The tree's heart remembers centuries of winters. We'll be fine.
William pressed his palm flat against the curved inner wall. It was warmer than the outside air, without a fire. He lit a candle and held it near the seams. The flame never wavered, not a breath of wind crept through.
No draft, not even a flicker. The cold can't find a single path in.
They can laugh. This tree will still be standing when their roof beams crack from the frost.
Thomas worked deeper into the night, smoothing the floor with a draw knife, building shelves from fallen branches. The first hard freeze was coming, and with it, the test that would prove the tree's worth or bury his dream. George Harlow slammed his ledger shut. A logger had just described the massive dead pine Thomas Greer was carving into a home. By noon, George stood before the tree, its girth dwarfing any saw timber he'd ever bought.
You are an even bigger fool than I thought. This whole tree is prime timber.
It's my home now. I won't let you cut it down.
Then the town council will decide. I'll have it felled within the week.
The council might listen to George's coin, but I'll fight until the last axe stroke.
George turned and strode back toward town, his boots crunching with finality. The threat was realer than the cold.
Let him bring the council. This tree has stood longer than the town.
That night, Thomas sealed another crack. Knowing now he was fighting more than weather, he was fighting profit. And profit, in that timber country, had a habit of crushing anything that couldn't be sold. William Carver did not hunt timber. He hunted proof, the kind that could stop an axe.
You remember the tree from childhood? How old was it then?
She smiled, eyes distant. My grandmother said it was ancient when the first settlers arrived. That night, William worked by candlelight, lens pressed to a core sample, counting rings thinner than paper.
642 rings. This tree sprouted before the town was a clearing.
He took that number straight to the town council, where George had already lit the fuse.
This tree is 2 years of mill profit. I demand a vote to fell it immediately.
A tree that stood for 6 centuries deserves more than a quick axe. It's a living record of our valley.
Old wood burns just as hot. We need the money now, not a history lesson.
They'll vote next week. Until then, the axe hangs over this tree like a blade about to drop.
The vote loomed, so Thomas and William turned the tree into a laboratory of survival.
I've brought a pair of thermometers. Let's compare the tree's skin to the air outside.
He hung one outside the doorway where the cold bit hardest and pressed another to the inner wood.
Inside the wall is 12 degrees warmer than the outside air. And that's without the stove.
The wood itself is storing heat. It releases it slow as a heartbeat.
They lit a single candle and moved it to every seam. No flicker betrayed a draft.
No sawn lumber could do this. The fibers are still locked together like armor.
That evening, a mild, cold snap rolled in, and Thomas asked William to stay the night.
Stay. Feel what a still air chamber does when the temperature drops.
By morning, William's own data told a story no council could ignore, but George would try. The storm rolled in with a howl that sent shutters rattling across town. But inside the hollow tree, the air never stirred.
Hear that? The wind's tearing at the ridge. But in here, it's just a whisper.
A mile away, a framed shed lost its roof, shingles scattering like dry leaves. By dawn, the tree stood untouched, its doorway still dark against the fresh snow.
A lucky morning. One hollow tree won't save a man when the real winter comes.
George didn't wait for the next meeting. He found a crew of loggers who asked no questions.
I want that tree felled by week's end. Keep it quiet until it's too late.
William overheard the deal from the back of the general store. His blood ran cold.
Thomas, George has hired men to cut the tree before the council vote. We have to stop them.
Then we block the trail. I won't let them put an axe to this wood.
At dawn, Thomas and William stood shoulder to shoulder before the tree as the sound of boots and axes grew louder through the timber. The foreman raised his axe. Step aside, Greer. We have a contract, and we mean to fulfill it.
Your contract isn't worth the wood you destroy. This tree is my home. You'll have to go through me.
Before the logger could answer, George Harlow stepped through the snow, his breath a cloud of contempt.
Then we'll go through you if we must. This tree belongs to the mill by right of profit.
Profit doesn't put a roof over a man's head in a blizzard. This tree does.
We have thermal tests, ring counts, scientific proof this tree is a living relic. You can't destroy that.
A sharp whistle cut the air. The town deputy emerged from the tree line, a folded paper in his hand. The deputy held up a paper. Council's order. No axe touches this tree before the hearing on Friday.
Friday. 3 days to convince a town that a hollow tree is worth more than gold.
The town hall overflowed on Friday, every bench filled, every gaze fixed on Thomas and a rough-hewn chart of the hollow tree.
This chart proves the tree keeps an interior temperature 12 degrees above the outside air, without a fire.
Charts don't feed families. The lumber from that tree would fund a school and bridge repairs.
Murmurs rippled. Some nodded at George, others leaned toward William's ring count document.
We have 6 centuries in that trunk. You can't replace a living monument with a few months of millwork.
Then a voice rose from the back. The elder woman William had interviewed. She stepped forward on a cane. She spoke, voice thin but clear. This tree stood when my grandmother's grandmother was a child. To cut it would be to cut the heart from this land. The chamber fell silent. Even George looked away. The council withdrew to deliberate. When they returned, the foreman spoke, "No felling until a full preservation study is completed. The tree stands."
A reprieve. Not victory. But time and time might bring a winter that proves what no chart ever could.
After the hearing, the elder woman led Thomas and William back through the snow, her cane pointing to the ancient trunk.
She says there's a mark carved by the first people, older than any settlement.
She brushed snow from a crevice high on the trunk, revealing a spiral carving worn smooth by centuries.
A sacred mark. This tree was a witness long before the first sawmill.
Old scratches won't stop an axe. The council will see reason once the snow melts.
But the barometer had dropped to a number no one in the valley had ever seen. The storm of a century was gathering.
This isn't just a cold snap. It's a blizzard like the old stories warned about.
He split wood for days, stacked it high inside the hollow, and checked every seam.
I've brought enough supplies to last a month. We'll face this storm together inside the tree.
As the first flakes thickened into a white wall, the tree stood silent and solid, a fortress carved from the ancient heart of the forest. The town transformed into a frenzy of hammers and shutters. No one had seen a barometer so low.
I've got enough dried meat and lamp oil to last 2 weeks. Let's batten down this wooden ship.
They hauled the last armloads of split pine through the narrow doorway and sealed the entrance with a heavy wool blanket.
We've done everything we can. Now the storm will either find a way in or break against the walls.
George Harlow watched the panic from his window and smirked.
A true house is built on honest lumber, not a hollowed stump. This blizzard will prove who the fool is.
Then the first gust hit. It tore a loose sign from its hinges and rattled every door in the valley.
Hear that? The world outside is a scream now, but in here, the air is still as a held breath.
And I intend to keep it that way. Let the storm rage. We'll be telling this tale by spring.
Outside, the blizzard swallowed the forest whole. Inside the tree, the candle flames stood upright, untouched by any draft. The blizzard reached its full fury. Trees snapped like twine, but the hollow giant only hummed in the wind.
Outside, the wind is skinning the forest alive. In here, I could read a page by this candle.
The temperature's barely dropped 2 degrees. This living wall is a better insulator than any stuffed frame.
In town, a glass pane exploded inward, and snow flooded a kitchen. Families pressed their backs to groaning walls. Thomas set a worn checkerboard on a barrel between them, as if it were any quiet evening.
Your move, William. Let's see if you are better at checkers than at ring counting.
I'd rather be lucky enough to be inside a tree that outsmarts every carpenter in the valley.
Hour after hour, the blizzard battered the mountain. The tree stood, its heart calm as a cave beneath the sea.
Let the town call me Squirrel. This tree will still be here when their roof beams crack.
And somewhere in the howling dark, the first timber-framed house began to fail, spilling its warmth into the merciless night. In George Harlow's house, a wall beam split with a sound like a tree falling. Snow poured through the crack and dusted the children's hair.
The house is dying. We'll freeze here by morning. There's one place that might hold the hollow tree.
His wife wept that they'd never find it in the whiteout. But the roof groaned again, and the decision was made. George wrapped his family in every blanket they owned, tied a rope between them, and pushed the door open. The whiteout swallowed them instantly. Wind tore at the rope, and the children's cries were stolen by the gale. George guided them by memory alone, every log, every rise, until the faint amber glow of the tree cabin pierced the storm. They fell against the great trunk, ice forming on their lips. George pounded the door with the last strength he had. Inside, the checkerboard froze. Thomas's hand stopped mid-move. Another desperate pound shook the blanket-sealed door.
Thomas. That's George's voice. He's outside with his whole family.
After all his threats, he now begs at my tree. Do I open the door, or does the storm decide for him?
The bar lifted. Thomas pulled the heavy door inward, and the blizzard surged against him like a wild animal seeking entry.
Get inside, all of you. Move before the storm rips the door from its hinges.
George shoved his wife and children through the gap, then collapsed on the wooden floor, ice crusting his beard. William caught the children, pulling frozen mittens from their fingers and guiding them toward the stove.
Sit them by the fire. William, fetch the spare blankets from the shelf.
George slumped against the curved wall, his eyes fixed on the ancient wood grain as if seeing it for the first time.
Here, broth. Drink slow. Your children are safe now.
My house failed. The lumber I sold couldn't hold a wall together.
Outside, the blizzard howled with undiminished fury, but inside the hollow tree, 7 heartbeats steadied in the silence.
I never wanted his shame. But the tree has already taught him more than a courtroom ever could.
The long night began, 7 souls breathing the same warm air, the blizzard a distant roar beyond the wooden walls.
I haven't seen a crowd this happy since the last church picnic, and that was before the frost killed the turnips.
Every ring in this wood is a lesson I should have learned before the blizzard taught it to me.
He traced the ancient grain with his fingertip, each ridge a silent witness to his folly.
There's enough dried venison for breakfast. The storm can't last forever, not with this tree holding the line.
Somewhere in the small hours, the wind's shriek softened to a low moan. Then a whisper, pale light bled through the tiny window, painting the curved walls with the first blush of dawn.
It's passing. The world will still be there when we open the door.
This tree saved my children. I owe it more than a mill's profit. I owe it a vow.
Outside, the world lay buried in white, silent as a held breath, but inside the hollow giant, the first fragile piece had taken root, deeper than the frost. Thomas lifted the bar and pushed the door open. Blinding sunlight flooded the trunk, so pure it stole their breath. The hollow giant stood untouched, its bark glistening under a fresh coat of snow. Not a single branch broken.
Look at it. The only structure in the valley that didn't even shudder.
As they waded through the deep snow toward town, the world revealed its wounds. Barn roofs collapsed, fences splintered to kindling.
Every framed building took a beating. The lumber couldn't hold when the wind found its seams.
Ahead, the Harlow house sagged, its ridgepole snapped, snow spilling through a gash in the roof, like a frozen wound.
There it is. Every board I sold, every nail I trusted. The tree was right. I was wrong.
A house is more than its wood. George, a true shelter doesn't just block wind, it holds the warmth life needs.
George's wife looked from the broken house to the distant tree, still standing straight as a pillar, and understood what her husband could not yet say. In that frozen silence, the hollow tree stood as it had for centuries, not a folly, but the only honest witness to what truly endures. Word traveled faster than the thaw. By noon, half the town stood outside the hollow tree, staring at the untouched giant. George Harlow climbed onto a frozen stump, his voice carrying across the silent crowd.
I called Thomas a fool. I tried to fell this tree for profit, but last night it saved my children. From this day, I'll fight to protect this tree as hard as I once fought to destroy it.
A murmur swept through the townsfolk, not laughter now, but a low rumble of wonder.
The tree didn't choose sides in the storm. Neither did I. A shelter's only job is to hold.
George extended his hand, and Thomas took it. The past froze shut between them like a sealed seam.
We should make it official. If the council won't protect it, the town itself will.
A cheer rose, startling a cardinal from a nearby branch. For the first time, the hollow tree wore a crown of voices.
They didn't need a courtroom. They needed a night inside these walls to understand what the tree already knew.
William unrolled his longest measuring tape beneath the tree, the crowd parting to make room. He climbed the ladder, feeding the tape around the ancient girth while Thomas held the end steady.
38 feet around the base. That's more timber than any sawmill could dream of, but here it will stay.
He pulled a folded sheet from his coat, the ring count document, and held it high.
642 rings. This tree sprouted 40 years before the first settler planted a flag.
A collective gasp swept through the clearing, and the tree suddenly seemed taller, older, weightier.
Then it settled. This tree is a natural landmark. We carved a door, but we didn't make it. It made us.
A town elder brought forth a hand-carved plaque, and Thomas held it against the bark while William drove the nails.
Protected in perpetuity. That means forever, as long as anyone remembers this blizzard.
And so the hollow giant received a new ring, not of wood, but of promise. etched into its ancient skin for the next 600 years. Spring came gently, and with it, a quiet rhythm settled over the hollow tree.
The winter proved what my words never could. Now I write not to fight, but to remember.
William appeared often, a new book under his arm, staying late to debate the age of pines and the purpose of shelter.
I've measured every ring twice now. The tree grows older even in death. Each season adds a story.
A young girl planted a pine seedling at the tree's base, and Thomas showed her how to pack the soil. George arrived on fair mornings, a hammer in hand, repairing a loose shingle or sealing a new crack without a word.
You don't have to keep coming back, George. The town's accepted it. You've done enough.
I owe more than work. This tree gave me back my family. I am not done repaying that debt.
And so the seasons turned. The hollow tree stood as it always had, a home, a monument, a living lesson. The worst blizzard in memory had not reached Thomas because he'd carved his shelter from the heart of the thing the storm couldn't break. One clear evening, Thomas sat on a fallen log outside the hollow tree. The sky pricked with 1,000 stars.
The laughter in the square feels like another century. I almost buried myself in their mockery.
Footsteps crunched on the frost. William appeared, a lantern swinging, and lowered himself onto the log beside him.
I still have George's old ledger. He uses it now to tally the rings, not the board feet.
He learned. We all did. The storm taught us what no council meeting could.
They fell quiet, listening to the wind move through the high branches, the same wind that had nearly killed them, now harmless as breath.
Some things are worth more standing, William. This tree proved that.
Then let it stand forever. We'll make sure of it.
And the hollow tree, older than memory, stood bathed in starlight, its doorway a golden mouth of welcome, its plaque a vow. For the worst blizzard couldn't reach a man who built his shelter from the heart of the world. Seasons folded into one another, but the hollow tree never changed. Children came to press their palms against the ancient bark, and Thomas would tell them of the blizzard.
This tree held when every other wall fell. It still does.
The pine sapling the girl had planted now reached her waist, its roots lacing with the giants. Rain and frost wore at the plaque, but the words never faded. From high above, the tree's crown still rose above the forest, a broken sentinel that never fell. The town forgot the jeers. They remembered only the warmth that came from the heart of the wood. And Thomas, gray by then, still sat by the fire each night, writing the truth into his journal. He had been called a squirrel, but he had built a home the worst blizzard in history could not touch. Not because he fought the wind, but because he found a place the wind could not enter. Not every shelter is held together by nails. Some are carved from the heart of the world. The hollow tree still stands, older than the town that once mocked it. Generations have come to touch its rings, each one a page from a story written in wood. Thomas is gone now, but his doorway remains open. And when the next blizzard comes, someone will be inside, listening to the wind howl harmlessly against the living walls, because a true shelter is not measured in board feet, but in the stillness it holds against the storm. This is the story of a man who refused to let the wind decide. He carved a cabin inside a giant hollow tree, and the worst blizzard couldn't reach him, not because the walls were strong, but because they were alive. And some things, like a 600-year-old tree, are worth more standing.